Hi everyone, good morning and welcome to day 2 of distance learning. Today is Wednesday, the 4th of August 2021. So let's have a really quick look at the schedule for today, which I sent last night. I've set up the schedule so that there's some information there on how to get onto Teams and how best to send your work and to check in every morning or you will be marked absent. I know that for some families it's best if you work at night, and that's fine, but just let me know what you're doing and check in with me. So the first lesson today is spelling, and we're going to write the words in red and blue and then write a sentence, and comprehension of Wolfson Matilda. I'm going to do both of these lessons in one video today. The next lesson is the maths with the 2 types of mental maths that everybody's requested, and going on with comparing fractions, and science, which is mouldy bread, and we're going to look at some work from Mr. Detrick's YouTube on different types of mould, and a really great experiment you can do at home. Okay, let's kick off with spelling. If you can head up your page, Wednesday, the 4th of August 2021, and just head it up spelling. And for each bit of work that you send in to me, if you could put the date on it and what the subject is that you're doing. Okay, now with spelling, let's start with a warmer-upper like we normally do. We're going to do the 44 phonemes, 24 consonants, 20 vowels. Don't forget that letters on their own are just letters and don't make a sound. It's not until we put those phonemes with other letters that we know the sound that we need to make. B, k, ch, d, g, j, l, m, n, p, r, s, j, sh, t, th, the, w, y, z. And of course, open your mouth up and let the sound out. Now for the 20 vowels. A, e, a, e, e, I, o, oi, u, ua, or, ow, a. Nice way to warm up for spelling. All right, so what I would like you to do today is, with your spelling words that are found on Teams under homework, I want you to write the spelling word in red and blue. In that way, you are really sounding out the phonemes. So, for example, acknowledge, the a. So, number 1, a. I'll make this bigger so you can see what I'm doing. A, k, n, o, u, e, j. And then yesterday you should have written a definition for acknowledge, or you might have to look one up today. Now you're going to write a nice sentence with a capital and a full stop. I will acknowledge that I am doing distance learning today by checking in on Dojo. Okay, so for each one I want you to write a nice compound or complex sentence, which means it's not a simple one. A short sentence, you're putting some thought into it. Good writing with a capital and a full stop. That's for all your spelling words. Now, some people yesterday already did yesterday's activity on Monday. So for the spelling activity, they remembered one that we did in class, like the bubble phoneme, and they got extra stars for that. But today I could tell from marking the writing that everyone needs more work with writing, and so this is a good opportunity to demonstrate understanding of the spelling word. And because we're not doing dictation on a Friday until we go back, I'd like to see you write each word in a sentence. So once again, our words are based on has, the unit that we're doing at the moment, and they are acknowledge, alphanumeric, annotated, campaign, chronological, citizen, commonwealth, constitution, circa, continuity, discrimination, experience, and federation. Guys, if you're going to send me this sheet, please fill it in and save it. Actually save it before you send it to me. Don't send me an empty sheet. I've got plenty of these of my own. I want to see what you're doing. Okay, now for the comprehension today, and of course you can pause me while you are doing that work. You can pause at any time, catch anything up, or take any notes. So moving on to the comprehension, so if you can just head up your book when you're ready with comprehension and grammar. And this is lesson 2. And you can call it lesson 2 if you wish. I saw some lovely book work sent to me, really beautiful, everything headed up, margins, that's what I want to see. And you can also video your work because I can pause it on the pages to mark your work. And that was very entertaining for me, for those students who sent it in as a video, that your work was beautiful and I got to have a really good look at what you were doing and you were explaining it to me. Okay, so today we're working out of our student workbook for the term, which is this one. And as I said yesterday, we've completed the writing task, which is writing a letter to future self. And we're now doing the reading comprehension and the grammar by looking at letters out of Matilda. So if you didn't do those slides yesterday, you need to watch yesterday's YouTube and catch up. But today we're working on slide 12. So we're looking at verbs and adverbs. And if you remember what an adverb is an action word, it's a doing word. And an adverb adds meaning to the verb, such as walk, I will walk. I will walk slowly. So slowly is the adverb and it usually ends in ly. The idea of the sentence can be expanded and sharpened by our choice of adverbs and verbs. So instead of just picking really simple verbs and adverb, such as I walked slowly, you could change the verb and change that to I trudged slowly. So by expanding on that verb and picking something a bit more expressive or descriptive, you've added more meaning there. You're not just walking, you're trudging. We can further develop the reader's understanding by choosing a range of adverb groups and phrases that follow the verb. Locate the adverbial phrases and highlight. Okay, so let's work with these examples, which were based on yesterday's letter. The choice of more expressive verbs makes an action more vivid. For example, instead of saying she ate her lunch, we could say she gobbled up her lunch. So that way, for this phrase, we could imagine a girl sitting there quite delicately eating her lunch. But in this one, we can see someone who's really hungry gobbling up their lunch. What tense was this sentence and what was the verb expanded? So just under comprehension, write 1 and tell me what tense was that? She ate her lunch or she gobbled up her lunch. Is that past, present or future? Right, remember pause with any questions if you need time. And so that is obviously past tense. And the verb that was expanded is ate, which we expanded by changing it to gobbled. So when we do that, that's actually called an elaborated tense. So where we take a tense that the sentence is written in, whether that's past, present or future, we take the verb and we expand on it. Okay, here is one sentence from the story. We are poor. That was basically the meaning of it. That's a simple sentence. We are poor. And now we're going to elaborate on that. We are so poor that we had our furniture taken away. Now, an adverbial phrase is part of a sentence that provides a position. Where is what we are talking about? So what we are talking about here is the furniture, and what happened to the furniture? It was taken away. Taken is an verb. Put it together, our furniture was taken away. That becomes an adverbial phrase. So what tense is this sentence? We are so poor that we had our furniture taken away. Well, taken away is past tense, isn't it? They've already taken it. Highlight the verb and tense, so write down what the verb in this sentence that we're focusing on, and I've already told you that, taken, and the adverb phrase that adds meaning to the sentence, taken away. We're going to rewrite this sentence now. You're going to do that. Rewrite this sentence in past tense. So she is sick. So I want you to rewrite it in past tense and add an adverbial phrase. Okay, so first of all, you've got to take she is sick, which is present tense, and make it past tense. So she was sick, and add some more information in there to add meaning to that sentence. And what I would add as an example, you can put your own in, is she was sick, so we took her to the hospital. So all that is now in past tense. She was sick, so we took her to the hospital. So write your own sentence in past tense and changing that to past tense. Now, there's different tenses as well. We're now going to look at simple present tense and future tense. Okay, so simple present tense is typically used to talk about either present states, for example, he lives in Darwin, or we live in Jimboomba, or actions that happen regularly in the present. For example, he watches television every night, or that represents timeless happenings as information reports. For example, bears hibernate in winter. So that's a timeless happening that happens all the time. So we can talk about that in present tense. So I want you to write me a simple present tense now about you. And let's use the fact that you're learning now. So write me a sentence in simple present tense about you learning now. I'll start you off. I am learning to. I am learning to annotate letters from a novel. So that is in the present, that's what you're doing now. Future time is where we use the word will. She will call you tomorrow. That's in present tense, as in tomorrow. Tomorrow, I leave for Hobart, and adverbials of time give you what time she arrives or where she's going. But when we talk about adverbials of time, we talk about when they are arriving. So she will call you tomorrow. Tomorrow I leave for Hobart. She arrives in the morning. I will start work in the morning. Right, now on that note, let's have a look at a letter, a very short letter. This is from chapter 4. So the last letter we read about how her mum was very sick and all the hardship she was experiencing. So all Matilda could do was arrange the funeral as best she could with the help of Mrs. Dawkins, and she wrote her dad another letter. And here we have the different lines numbered. I've put that in. I've had to put it in sideways, but you can see that. Dear Dad, I hope you are well. I am sorry I do not know how to tell you this. Mum is dead. I didn't have money to put a headstone on the grave, but Mr. Thompson gave me a rose bush to put there. I don't know what to do. Can you come to the city and help me? Your loving daughter, Matilda. Okay, now straight up, the first thing we're going to do, and you can number your answers as you go, is can you spot the error in this letter? So pause now and go through and see if you can find the error. Okay, now when you read through it and you answer from now on, make sure you use the line number. And of course, the error is in line 6, and you can actually write that. Can you spot it now? Quickly write it in and pause if you have. And of course, it's a question mark. Can you come to the city and help me? She's actually asking something. Okay, the second question is, how would you describe Matilda's situation now? So I want you to write what you think about Matilda's situation. Now, think about all the hardships she had before, and now think about what she's enduring now. Can you locate any expressive verbs? So are there any expressive verbs in this letter that you can see? Don't forget to include the line number. So let's go through it. Hope you are well. I am sorry. Do not know how to tell you this. So line 3, the expressive verb that she uses is sorry. I don't know what to do. The fact that she doesn't know in line 6. And your loving daughter, line 7, loving being expressive verb. And what do you think is the case? Why do you think this is the case in Matilda's letter writing? She hasn't used a lot of expressive verbs in this letter. You know, you could really say a lot of people in this situation, when they write, would write about being heartbroken and devastated, but she's kept it pretty matter of fact. And even the expressive verbs that she has used, she hasn't really gone on about them too much. So why do you think that this is the case, that Matilda's really not used many expressive verbs in her letter writing? Now, this is a really deep thinking question, and I want you to pause it and have a think about it. And when you come back, we'll discuss it. So pause it now. All right, now, a lot of people, when they go through a lot of hardship and things just keep getting worse and worse, they sort of start dealing with things very factually. So Matilda, you know, she starts this off with, I hope you are well and your loving daughter. She's trying to be very factual. She's trying to break the news, and then she's trying to move on, and she's probably thinking about what she's going to do next. So some people kind of don't go into too much detail about how they're feeling when they're trying to organise themselves, because there's nothing really good to say and they don't want to dwell on it. So she's being a little bit of a tough person, showing a lot of resilience, and we'll see this in her letters as we go on. Okay, now let's keep reading the chapters to get some information on what's happening. Now, this is a hospital from the time in the 1890s and onwards. You can see it's an old building, not a lot in there, a table in the middle. But he didn't come, meaning the dad never came. Matilda had to go and find him. She packed her bag with a few things she owned and went to the hospital to say goodbye to Tommy, who was still there recovering. So her friend who worked with her in the jam factory, he had an accident. So Matilda's gone in to say goodbye to Tommy. Tommy said that she couldn't go. It was so far that it was beyond Black Stump, but she needed something that was her own, and the only thing left was a father. She had to go and find the Golden Man. She knew she had to catch a train. She hadn't paid the rent so that she could have enough money for her fare to drink water where he lived. Matilda leaned over and kissed Tommy's cheek and left. Okay, so after that, she's basically packed up. She hasn't got any reason to be there anymore, so she's heading out to find her father. And here it's really nice because we've got some old pictures that we can look at as well. This is the main transport that people got around in early Australia, and definitely how they moved things that they needed, and the old steam train. Chapter 5. There were very few people on the train. She slept as the train travelled. She dreamt of happy times when she lived with her Aunt Anne. When she woke up, she saw that the countryside was new and unfamiliar. There were tall white trees with giant trunks, and the land became drier and drier. She saw a mob of kangaroos. That's a collective noun, by the way, if you remember us talking about the different types of nouns. So we describe a lot of kangaroos together as a mob. She saw sweeping expanses of land. It was all so big, so different from the neat little house of her aunt with its garden of roses and other flowers. Finally, the train reached her stop, and when she got off the train, she was hit by the heat and the flies. A man got off with her. He was not friendly, a very serious man. A very well-dressed lady and a little girl about her age got off too. There was a horse and dray to meet serious man. His name was Patrick O'Reilly, and the men who met him had been drinking alcohol. No one was there to meet Matilda. Should she wait with the lady or try to get a ride with these men? So this is horse and dray. The dray is an open carriage. She decided that she had better ask the men for a ride. She went across the tracks and asked if they could take her to Mara, the home of her dad, Jim O'Halloran. The men were surprised. They knew her dad, but didn't know he had a daughter. But they were all union men, and her dad was a leader in the union, and so they helped Matilda onto the dray. So union is where groups of workers have representatives that make sure that their rights are upheld to the government. Before they left, a man arrived on a horse. He looked golden, and at first she thought it might be her father. He arrived with two boys. They were there to meet the lady and her daughter. His name was Cecil Drinkwater, and he was there to meet his sister, but he was late. He had been hunting. His son James announced proudly that they had killed an Aborigine. Matilda was shocked. They had been shooting people? So this book covers a lot of things from the past, racism and unfairness between the genders in work we've already come across, with Matilda only getting half pay in the jam factory because she was a girl. Mr. O'Reilly, the man from the train, announced that they had better leave so that they could get to town in time for the union meeting. Chapter 6. Before they left, the mother and child had given Matilda food to eat on the journey to town. She told the men, Mr. Gotobed, Bluey and Curry and Rice, her story and why she needed to find her father. She was so tired that she fell asleep, and when she woke up, it was night time. She was in the wagon outside the town hall, and the meeting was happening inside. She decided to go in and find her father, but the room was crowded, and she didn't know what he looked like. Mr. O'Reilly was speaking, and he told the Unionists that they needed a nation that was one nation, not a country with different states. He said that everyone should be able to vote for their government, men and women. The crowd were excited and cheered. Then she heard Mr. O'Reilly telling her story. He said, "Tonight in slums across our cities, children sleep in gutters, work in factories. Today, women die without money for a doctor, while their children weep, hungry and helpless." He told them that this happens while the rich have plum pudding, people like the Drinkwaters. Matilda was excited by his speech. Then he said he wanted a nation that was free of Chinese, and Matilda was saddened. She remembered the kindness of Ah Ching and left the meeting feeling disappointed. She went outside and sat on the step. Now, of course, in early Australia was really assisted with our settlement by lots of people from lots of different nations, but a lot of Chinese migrants came out, and this is actually an old picture of the time of a Chinese migrant. Thought he had a pretty cool outfit on myself. Around the corner came a man who looked like Ah Ching. She smiled at him and said, "Quing An." The man stopped, and she explained that she was looking for Mora and her father. The man knew him and agreed to take her to his home. Chapter 7. The man's name was Du Li. He was a market gardener and grew vegetables. He put Matilda in his vegetable cart, and they walked and walked. They even crossed a river. Then they went to Drinkwater's house, which was large and beautiful and showed how rich they were, and you can see what an absolutely beautiful home it is there. Chapter 8. They delivered vegetables to families who were living in houses that were falling down and who had virtually nothing to eat. Mrs. Heenan said that she was past caring and ready to give up. Life was too hard. Mr. Du gave the family food to eat without making them pay anything more than just 2 pennies. The men in this area were on strike, and so they weren't earning any money. Some men, like Mr. Heenan, were away from home trying to get a job. So people go on strike when they feel that the pay and the working conditions are outrageous. Finally, they arrived at Mora, her father's house. It was a simple house near a creek. She was disappointed. She had hoped for a large house like Drinkwater. Also, there was no one home. She would have to stay there alone. Just checking how. All right, we'll finish this page here. Chapter 11. He explained that he had loved her mum, but she was unhappy living in the bush and had left when Matilda was tiny to go and live with his sister in the city, and that any money he had sent to her. So there we go. There was a lot of questions initially about why the father was living in the country and why the mum was living in the city, and the answer is mum didn't really like the country. For this reason, he hadn't been able to expand the farm and do more with his house. Now he would be able to do this when the strike was over. He told her he had tried to forget that he had had a daughter, as it hurt too much, and that she was no longer there for him. He told her he was sorry he had let her and her mum down. Very sorry. He shared with her his dreams for a new Australia that was fairer, where people got fair pay. He then told her that he had to get away for a while, that Drinkwater was angry with him. He said, "Matilda, my darling, you can't stay here." She then told him that she wanted to be with him. She wanted to go with him. She wanted a safe life with someone who loved her. She wanted somewhere where she belonged. So tomorrow we'll start. We've read that one. So tomorrow we're going to read a letter to Tommy, who was her friend in the city, from Matilda, and we're going to talk about that. So tomorrow we're going to move on and do slide 18, 19, and 20. Okay, that's it for the spelling and grammar part of this lesson. Have a bit of a break, and then we'll move on to maths and science.